Another interesting thing about lessons learned, maybe, and people talking about stuff is Syfy. I still don't know if I'm supposed to say the Syfy channel or not, or just Syfy.
I don't
Syfy.
know. But they're rebranding. Well, they're not rebranding.
But they're refocusing.
Yes.
Yeah. So Syfy, look, I mean, everyone, if you're listening to this, you probably know their history, and as far as that it was like right when Battlestar was ending, that they said, hey, we're renaming ourselves to Syfy, Syfy, and that the shows that they had then started to change a lot. And it was two things. It was, yes, they started to do a lot of reality shows, and then they also, their scripted shows started to become what I started to think of as like shows, because USA is a sister channel to Syfy, and the shows they started to do in the last few years started to feel like almost USA shows with like a fantasy sci-fi bent to them.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
And that's not to say they were bad shows. Like Eureka was a perfectly enjoyable show, but everything they started to do started to be Earth-based, quirky, Warehouse 13, and like, those kind of like, this is a fun group of characters to kind of watch, semi-disposable. Not to say they didn't make good episodes, but it was like, it wasn't weighty. It wasn't like, there was little serialization, and it started to feel a sameness to it, a lot of it.
Yeah, I think that's true. And then add into that probably one of their biggest, attention-grabbing properties started to be the Asylum films, and especially in the last couple of years.
Right.
With your Sharknadoes. I love that stuff, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's amazing and so much fun to watch. But I miss having something like a Battlestar also to go to on that channel, because you're certainly not getting that anywhere else.
Yeah. Even though, like, I know, it's not a show that's held in has high regard, but certainly has a huge fan base, something like Stargate that was so unabashedly like, we are doing like an adventure, long-running, like people in space show, and they just stopped doing that sort of stuff. And so, recently, the head of Syfy, or head of original programming at Syfy, Bill McGoldrick, he was pretty frank about the fact that they want to sort of get back the people that they know they have lost over the years, and that they, if you look at their slate, and I know we've mentioned this in passing, but if you look at what they have coming up, it definitely stands out that it's like much more hard sci-fi, more dramatic stuff, and a couple things in the case of like Ascension, and it's not the only one that is in outer space again.
They've got I actually just did the junket, the Syfy junket, and they do. I mean, Ascension, I'll say that Ascension is the one that I am most interested in moving forward. It's just we'll be writing more about it, but it's very much, should I give the base premise?
Yeah.
So the base premise is that Kennedy, with the fear that we were basically going to destroy ourselves with nuclear war, sends this ship into space. And there's all this research, by the way, which I won't bore us with right now, that they could not have done this, but the space program was like...
The idea of it.
The idea of it was maybe sort of, kind of, in a sense, potentially maybe sort of possible. But not really. But they were putting a lot of energy into the space program, and into a program that was sort of similar to this. So they send this ship called Ascension, and they pick however many humans, basically to go 100 years to a planet to repopulate so that the human species will go on. And it's 50 years into their journey, and they're getting to the point of no return.
Right.
They're going to have to turn back and go to Earth and hope that it's still there, and some people want that, or they're going to have to keep going on, right? Okay. The first murder happens in 50 years in the middle of that. So I think it's just a really cool... So it's about how society would have evolved in that bubble. If nothing else could have affected it, how would people behave? What values from the 50s would actually still be relevant today? What things would have changed and evolved anyway, quite naturally? Why now a murder? You know what I mean?
Right.
Why? And my big question was, why not before now? We're human beings. There would have been murder. And I think it's a really fascinating setup. It is in space, which I enjoy. There's so much about this that I just on a conceptual level hook into, and I'm like, I will watch that show. I hope it's good. I so hope it's good. Plus Caprica 6 is in it.
No, Tricia Helfer is in it. Yeah, I'm really excited about that one. I'm really excited in a very biased way for 12 Monkeys. They also have Childhood End, which is an Arthur C. Clarke adaptation starring Charles Dance from Game of Thrones. a lot of stuff. We just got the announcement that they are going to do 3001, which is Arthur C. Clarke's finale of his 2001 storyline as a miniseries.
Yeah, and that one I think it's weird because
with Ridley Scott producing.
I know, and this is the thing, like, because 2001 was one of those childhood films that like I watched a lot, and I think it's I mean, 2010 was already kind of disastrous.
Oh yeah, it's a lot to chew.
It's a lot to chew on.
Yeah, but the main thing here is I hope people will give them a chance, because right now, I mean, unfortunately, we are in a place where if you announce something, and we see it in our comments, but I know it's not the only site, and it's on Syfy, people go, oh, then it's going to be crappy.
Right.
And it is hard for people. One thing I just wish people would be more accepting of, though, is that no network is going to be just one thing.
Right.
And so when you talk about those Asylum movies, we say the Asylum doesn't make all those movies, but just the Saturday Night movies in general.
Right.
Those go back years. Those were on when Battlestar was on.
Yeah.
Getting them all this acclaim. It's just they've had a couple pop culture moments now, especially with the Sharknado movies. They got them a lot more attention. And I see people say a couple things that I just hope they can accept are not going to happen, but still give these shows a chance, which is, first and foremost, they're not changing the name back.
Right.
You know, one of the reasons they changed the name in the first place was a pure copyright thing, because they couldn't copyright the term sci-fi.
Sci-fi, yeah.
So not going to change the name back. And then the other thing is when they say, like, get rid of all the reality shows, get rid of wrestling because they are, SmackDown. Again, they're at a certain place, because they don't have the money. No one has the money. That they're not going to be airing 5 nights a week or more, 2 of these, hour-long scripted shows. It's just not going to happen. You need low-budget reality shows or stuff that just make them some money. Hopefully they're pouring into other stuff.
And you need those movies, which make them some money. I mean, merchandising alone, frankly, your Sharknadoes, and they're fun.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean they can't also have quality programming. To your point, they did at the same time.
They did. Yep.
And I hope they will continue to do that and forge a new path. There are some networks that started out on one path and totally derailed, like Bravo.
Yeah.
Where it's like there is nothing that is not people screaming at each other and drinking champagne on Bravo. It is an atrocious place to visit at this point. But it started out as this really highbrow kind of channel. So I don't think Syfy devolved to that point, that there's no return for it. I think they can come back and give us some quality science fiction. And where else are we going to get it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I think it's going to take but it's going to take some work, and hopefully, first and foremost, we hope these shows deliver.
Yeah,
because if they do, and then critics are talking about them a lot, and if they have a cult audience that starts talking about them a lot, then hopefully it'll bring people back. Because right now it is that thing of that uphill battle where people are like, oh, it's on Syfy, which should never be the case for the channel that's supposed to be about science fiction.
There's another really interesting one that they have, and I feel so bad I can't think of the name right now. But it's basically assassins. They're
let me see. Is it possibly The Expanse with Thomas Jane?
No.
Okay. There's something else I'm forgetting the name of too, by the way. Yeah, they have a
I'm
few.
sorry, guys. We'll be writing about it more anyway over the next couple of weeks. What they've got coming up. So then you'll know.
Yeah. And then Ascension. Yeah. I mean, Ascension is interesting because it's launching just there's only 6 episodes, and they're going to do it as a 3-night event.
Yeah.
But, again, clearly they want it to be more past that, and I just hope it's like a Battlestar situation, which started as a miniseries.
Yeah, I think they're hoping to hook us in with those 6 episodes. We have an interview with Trisha Helfer, Caprica 6 herself, that we'll be putting up, and I'm really excited about the show, so let's all just give everything a chance.
Give them a chance, man, and just understand that there will still be some silly shows where people are ghost hunting, never finding ghosts, because those things coexist too.